So you want to speak English more confidently, but you're just not sure where to start? Well, in this explainer, we're going to walk through a few simple, really powerful techniques you can start using today to get your fluency up. Let's jump right in. Ever been in this situation? That moment when you need to speak English and suddenly your mind just goes totally blank and the nerves kick in? It's an incredibly common feeling. I think pretty much every language learner has been right there. And look, let's just be honest about it. Speaking a new language is genuinely tough. It really is. You're not just translating words in your head. You're trying to express yourself, understand what someone else is saying, and get the pronunciation right, all at the same time. It's a lot to juggle. But here's the really good news. With the right kind of practice, you can cut through all that complexity. The goal isn't just to cram more words into your brain, but to make speaking feel natural, almost automatic. So let's dive into our first technique. First things first. The foundation of fluency isn't about memorizing super complex grammar rules. Nope, it's about getting comfortable with the basics, the simple back and forth of daily life. This is where you're going to build your confidence, one little sentence at a time. I want you to think of it like this. You're building conversational muscle memory. It's just like an athlete who drills the basic moves over and over again. You can practice simple questions and answers until they become second nature. This means you have to think less, which is a huge step forward in any conversation. Okay, so where do you even begin? Well, you don't need to talk about abstract, complicated topics. Just focus on what you already know inside and out, your own life. When you talk about your daily routine or your hobbies or your family, the ideas are already there. All you have to do is find the English words for them. So let's take a super common example. Somebody might ask you this exact question. Now, instead of freezing up, you can have a simple, structured answer ready to go. And look how simple and direct this answer is. Each sentence is short and clear. The goal here isn't to write a beautiful poem. It's just to communicate clearly. Practicing a structure just like this out loud is exactly how you build that muscle memory we were just talking about. Okay, so once you start feeling comfortable with those basic questions and answers, it's time to level up. The next step is all about improving your listening so you can really understand the natural flow and rhythm of English. And honestly, the best way to do that is with stories. Every language has its own kind of music, its own rhythm, its own melody and intonation. Well, listening to stories helps you absorb this music in a really natural way. It's so much more effective than just listening to random word lists, because stories give you context, and context is what helps you remember everything. And this is absolutely key. We have to talk about the difference between passive listening and active listening. It's not enough to just have English playing in the background while you do other things. Active listening means you are focused, you're trying to follow the story, and you're connecting the words you hear to their actual meaning. That's what really builds understanding. Listen to this for a second. It's not just a list of facts, right? It actually paints a picture in your mind. When you actively listen to a story like this one, your brain isn't just processing words like castle or pathways. It's connecting them to images and feelings. That's what makes the language stick. All right, now for what might be the most powerful technique in our entire toolkit. We've talked about building a foundation with Q&A and improving your listening with stories. So how do we connect the listening part to the speaking part? The answer is a really cool technique called shadowing. So what in the world is shadowing? It's actually really simple, but it's incredibly effective. You listen to a sentence from a native speaker, and then you immediately try to repeat it. You're trying to mimic their pronunciation, their speed, their tone, everything, as closely as you can. You basically become their shadow. And here's exactly how you do it, broken down into 4 super easy steps. First, you listen to just one sentence. Then you pause the audio. Third, you repeat that sentence out loud. And finally, you really focus on matching the original speaker. This is like a workout for your mouth and tongue, training them to make the right sounds. And this is why this technique is such a game changer. Think about it. You can't learn how to swim by just reading a book about it, right? You have to actually get in the water. It's the same with language. You can't learn to speak fluently just by listening. Speaking out loud, even if you're just repeating what you hear, is absolutely essential. Okay, so let's pull all these pieces together into a simple daily practice plan. This is your toolkit for building real, noticeable fluency. Here's your game plan. First, build up that solid foundation with everyday questions and answers. Next, use active listening with stories to really soak up the language's natural rhythm. Then, use shadowing to physically train your mouth to speak correctly. And finally, the glue that holds it all together, You have to be consistent. Even a little practice every single day goes such a long way. And one last thing, and this is really important, please remember this. Progress isn't always fast, and it's definitely not a straight line. Some days are going to feel harder than others, and that is completely normal. The most important thing is that you're patient with yourself and that you just keep going. So that brings us to the end of our quick guide. You've got the tools, you have a plan, so the only real question left is this. What are you going to practice first? Are you going to start with some daily questions, find a new story to listen to, or maybe try shadowing a sentence right now? The choice is all yours.